In the Bhagavad Gita, we are studying chapter 4, and we had seen how Krishna declared himself to be an avatara, this incarnation of God, and then said that in the 10th verse, 9th verse and 10th verse, Janma karma jame divyam evam yo vetti tattvata tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti so Arjuna. The one who recognizes that I am an avatara. So Arjuna knew Krishna as a friend and knew him as a person, as a human being, but did not actually recognize that he was none other than God incarnated. So one who recognizes the avatara as God incarnated and realizes that the birth and the actions of an avatara are divyam, divine, not like us. They will escape from, they'll be freed from this prison of the cycle of birth and death. So life and death, this ever-repeating cycle, one will be freed from it and will not come back to the samsara. Mameti attains me, attains to God, which is the idea of moksha, or liberation. That's the general interpretation. The deeper Advaitic interpretation of this would be the word tattvataha, in reality. Who knows me in reality? What does that mean? Not only as avatara, who realizes that that you are none other than this witness consciousness, pure being, pure isness, and so is God. The nature of God and your nature are one and the same thing, and by that knowledge you are liberated. So the first interpretation would be you recognize Krishna as God and worship and surrender to God through the avatara, through the incarnation, and that's a very powerful way to enlightenment, to liberation, to salvation. The standard way would be by your own effort, by prayer to God and by meditation and good works and all of that. Ultimately one is liberated, of course there also by the grace of God. But here you have an incarnation in human form. The contact is much more intimate, and you catch hold of the incarnation, and one of the purposes of incarnation is to grant liberation, is to grant enlightenment. So that would be one way, by the power and the grace of the incarnation. In fact, the whole of Christianity is actually based on that concept, the redeeming power of Jesus Christ. So this is what Krishna is talking about. Not just Jesus Christ, every incarnation of God has that power to free us from this burden of our karma, our past karma. That is basically, freeing us from, in Christian terms, the burden of our past sins. So our past karma, we are freed from that, we attain to enlightenment and therefore moksha. That's one interpretation. But the deeper interpretation in Advaita Vedanta would be, you realize, by the grace of the avatara, that you and the avatara are the same reality. That the existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda, the absolute. And by that realization, you immediately realize that you are free. You always were free, you are free, you are choicelessly free. And that also gives moksha. That realization gives moksha. So I gave two interpretations, a dualistic, theistic, devotional, and the other one is a knowledge-based, non-dualistic. Then one might ask, so if that's so, then why don't you give this realization to everybody? You are an incarnation, you have come to give liberation to people, so why don't you give it to everybody? So the 11th verse is this, where we were last time. The 11th verse goes, Ye yathā māṃ prapadyante tāṃstathaiva bhajāmyaham mama vartmānuvartante manuṣyāḥ pārtha sarvaśaḥ. By whatsoever way men worship me, even so do I accept them. For in all ways, O Partha, men walk in my path. So if you keep this question in mind, why doesn't God give liberation to everybody? That's the ultimate goal of life, and then the whole thing would be over. No, it is our choice. The Lord grants us whatever we want. So whatsoever way men worship me, not just as incarnation or my own self and in the way of jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, but also for worldly goals. People worship God for protection, from coronavirus or something, or for gaining things in the world, more wealth or success or learning, whatever it is. So most men, most human beings, they do not want liberation. It's not that people are here, are coming to God for liberation. Very few. It is only the highly spiritual, the 65 people gathered here, more or less these people who want this peculiar thing. They are not particularly interested in being rich or famous or even being rescued from trouble. All those are good, but we want something much bigger. We want the ultimate prize, the highest goal, that is liberation, moksha. But most others do not come to God. They have faith in God, but not for the highest goal, not for enlightenment, not for salvation or moksha. It is usually for lesser goals, worldly goals. Most people who come to God, who go to temples, it is that God will help us. Help us for what? Not for high spiritual goals, but for this life. I say this again and again, there is two kinds of religion, the lower religion and the higher religion. The lower religion is God for my life, as a convenience for my life. A washing machine makes my life better, a car makes my life better, God makes my life better. So for all my troubles in life, I take it to God and I want to be helped along. It's a physical, even financial, emotional, a crutch, something to lean upon, psychological, something to lean upon. And one should not dismiss this. It's a huge thing. Most people, they need this in life. And without this, people suffer in life, just in worldly life. I'm not even talking about spirituality or enlightenment. Carl Jung, he said that in most adults who have psychological problems in his patients, he has seen that in most cases it is because of a divorce between them and their church. Church means in their religion. So they have been divorced from religion. And that is at the root of their psychological distress. Who's saying this? Carl Jung. And that is as a support for living life. Life is full of suffering and tragedy, and you need this support. Nothing wrong with it at all. But there is this higher form of religion where not God for my life for God. That higher form of religion one can call spirituality. That's what we are all here for. We would be very happy if God helps us out with our day-to-day problems. Good. But that's not really what we are here for. We are here for liberation, moksha, salvation, whatever you call it. So Krishna says most people are not like that. That's why I don't give them liberation. Most people want dharma artha. They want pleasure, they want success, and they want maybe a heavenly life after death. That's it. So this worldly pleasure and success and other worldly pleasure and success. But all of that is worldly. This world or that world, it's still worldly. And those few who want liberation, I give them liberation. So that's the answer to the question. And he qualifies this by saying, in verse number 12, kāṅkṣantaḥ karmaṇāṃ siddhiṃ yajanta iha devatāḥ kṣipraṃ hi manuṣe loke siddhirbhavati karmajā. People seeking the fruit of actions worship the gods in this world, for in this world of men the fruit of action comes quickly. What might be the occasion for this verse is that people worship not only God, but in many religions, especially in ancient times, they worship the gods with smaller g, with the small g, with different powers of nature. So somebody might say, but I'm not worshipping you in any case, Krishna. I'm not worshipping you, Krishna, in any case. Shankaracharya says, Indra, Chandra Adi, Indra, Chandra, Agni Adi. The gods like Indra and Chandra and the moon god or fire god or the king of the gods, Indra, Vedic gods. So we are worshipping other powers In any case, we are not worshipping you. So this question doesn't arise of you giving us liberation or not giving us liberation. Krishna says, no, all of the gods whom you worship, whatever you worship, they all derive their power from me in the end. And people do worship these other powers because they are not interested in higher spirituality. What's the difference between these lesser gods and capital G God? Capital G God can give everything, including and especially moksha, liberation, spiritual freedom. The smaller G gods in the plural, they give lower things, worldly success. You want to defeat, you want to conquer a kingdom, you want to make rain happen, things like that. So you pray to these gods. But you need not, because Krishna says they all derive their power from me. Only thing is, these rituals which fulfill worldly desires and other worldly desires, they give results quickly in this world. In this world of human beings, the rituals give results quickly, and people want immediate gratification, and those are usually worldly goals. That's why they worship these other gods. They are not really interested in enlightenment and freedom. One of our Swamis, an Acharya in our training center when we were novices, he would say humorously, don't think that everybody is out to get enlightenment. If God comes and says, I'm going to give you moksha right now, there will be many who will back off. Not right away. Yes, certainly, I want that, but not just yet. Just a little later. I've got some other things to enjoy in this world. And he gave this example of a very gentle, elderly man, very devoted. By seeing his devotion, this Swami, he said, I felt so pleased. And I said, sir, in Bengali, I said, sir, you are so devoted. Surely Sri Ramakrishna will grant you liberation in this very life itself. And that man became scared. Swami, don't say this. Swami is saying, a monk is saying, maybe it will be fulfilled. No, don't say that, Swami. I have a daughter. Who's going to bring her up if I get liberated? So, no chance of that happening very quickly. But you see, where we are anchored. So I have to bring up my daughter, and therefore I don't want liberation. He was scared. Maybe the Swami is saying it, and right now God is going to appear before me. There, liberation, done. No. So, kṣipraṃ hi manuṣe loke. In this world of human beings, siddhirbhavati karmajā. The results of actions. Actions here means ritualistic actions. They give quick results. And therefore people worship all these other gods. A couple of points here. 3 points here. One is that the tendency I have seen in many Hindu households, especially devout Hindu households, to keep collecting deities. Because in Hinduism we have no end of these smaller G gods. Or the capital G God also in different forms. God, that's one God, but whether it is Vishnu or Shiva or Ganapati, Ganesha or Kartikeya or the Devi, now it's the worship of the Devi. They all actually are not different. They are not countably different. They all mean, from a Vedantic perspective, they all mean God, one God, capital G, different names and forms. Different names, forms, mantras, mythologies, rituals, Puranic stories. Each of them could be the center of a new religion actually. They're all sort of comprehended within the vast range of Hinduism. But they all mean, from a Vedantic perspective, Saguna Brahman, Ishvara, the God of religion. All of these, capital G. And they are not plural. There was this joke about one of the Englishmen coming early, before India was ruled by the British, and a clergyman trying to convert the Hindus into Christianity. And he says, you all must worship God. And the Hindu says to him, yes, but what's the name of God? What do you mean name of God? God is God. Yes, but what name? What is the name of your God? So the same God is worshipped in different forms, with form, without form, in male form, in female form, in the form of the elements like space and fire, and or without any form also, with many names. They are all the same G. Now my point is, The Hindu households collect so many of these. And then tension and anxiety. If somebody is giving this picture, I go to a pilgrimage and there are these pictures of the deity there are being sold. So I get one and put it in my house. Then somebody else presents me with a little idol or an icon. I put it in my shrine. And now we have this whole like a like a museum of of divinities. And then anxiety. If I don't keep it there, will that particular deity be annoyed with me? It's the same deity. Why would that particular deity be annoyed with me? But anxiety builds up. And after all, it's God, Maybe God is annoyed with me. And every little problem, because I did not offer worship to God in that form. And then it's kind of divine stress caused by divinity. And I've actually seen that happen. Never do that. Never be afraid. God is there to help you, both in a worldly sense, in a spiritual sense. The best practice is to keep image or picture of your Ishta Devata, chosen deity, whether it is Shiva or Vishnu or whatever it is, or Devi, or an avatar like Ram or Krishna or whatever it is. Keep that, and if you want more, keep it all around. You worship that one and mentally bow down or physically bow down to all of them. That's it. That's it. You need not worry about it at all. I've seen Hindu households extending their puja morning and evening, becoming, like filling up the whole day and not getting peace out of it. That's not a way to worship God. Never be afraid. God is not there to punish you. That's one problem. The second point I want to make is that when you say these gods, people worship the smaller gods and not God with a capital G, it may not seem particularly relevant in our time. There was smaller G gods have more or less disappeared from our sight, and even God with capital G we put under the big question mark. So where is the question of worshipping Indra, Chandra and Agni and all? Here you can interpret it in a much more sordid sense of the materialistic gods we worship. When Krishna is saying people worship gods here in this world, here in this world actually also could mean money, work, fame, wealth and success and fame and power and pleasure. These are the gods people actually worship. They are all the small g's. And they give their results immediately, but the end is always misery. So that's one interpretation you could give. And the third point I wanted to make was this distinction between life here in the world, God for my life, and my life for God. I made this distinction in a class at Harvard Divinity School. It was in Professor Stephanie Paulsell's class on Christian contemplative prayer, a very wonderful class. And you would be happy to see how many young men and women are interested, in something like prayer and contemplation. The class was always full, and the people sitting on windowsills, on the benches, like desks, or like Indian ashrams on the carpet, on the floor. So when I made this distinction, that notice, notice that the ones we are reading, the books that we are reading for the course. I have a message here which says Robert has entered the waiting room for this meeting. Okay. So when I made this distinction, that notice the books we have been reading, the early Christian contemplatives, down to the medieval saints like Saint Teresa or the anonymous author of the Dark Night of the Soul, and so on and so forth. All of these belong to the second category of spiritual people, those who have given their lives for God. All these books we are studying, they belong to that higher spirituality. Not God for life, but life for God. All saints, whether they are actually monastic or in a household life, they are like that. Now, I generally saw the uneasiness when this distinction made among the in the professor and the grad students there. And see, the whole idea of everything here for God, for enlightenment, it's very transcendent. It's sort of very beyond this life. And the whole fashion of our age is to, everything is here. This world, this life, even God, spirituality, religion, it's good insofar as it enriches our life here. And that's it. That is the dominant trend of our, it's a miserable trend. And it's also at the source of our miseries. But people feel uneasy if you say that all this is for some higher, spiritual, transcendent purpose. It's as if you're going back to the medieval ages or the dark ages where the church ruled everything and everything was for heaven and this life did not matter. That's the thing in the minds of people. So I realized that just by looking at the expressions. Nobody protested. So I ended that comment by saying that ultimately the two are not separate. Once you have your life given to God, God is the center of your life, this life itself becomes blessed. So you become a blessing to yourself and those around you, and that's an enormous source of peace and joy and goodness for society. And then I saw smiles coming back to the faces of the professor and the grad students. So these are the points I wanted to make. All right. Now, important verse, number 13. Not particularly important from the spiritual point of view or even the philosophical point of view, but much more from the much more from our present context, the social point of view. This deals with the caste system, which is a very, very controversial subject, and this verse itself has been the target of many activists. The Gita says that it supports the caste system. Let's take a look at it. What is the caste system and why the charges are not right? 13th verse. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha tasya kartaramapi mam vidya kartaramabhyayam. The four castes were created by me according to differences in attitudes and actions of men, though the author of them know me, the immutable, as non-agent. First of all, we'll take the second part of the verse. Tasya kartaramapi mam vidya kartaramabhyayam. Remember, what is this whole thing discussion from second chapter onwards? Arjuna's question was, what do I do with this terrible action in front of me? This duty I have, this war. And Krishna's answer is teaching him about Vedanta, that the self is existence, consciousness, bliss. You realize that and you're free of suffering. And yet you have to do your duty in this world. Because if you just say you have to realize that and become enlightened, Arjuna would be very happy. He would say, that's exactly what I want to do. I don't want to fight this war. I want to be a monk and stay in the Himalayas. He actually uses the word in his introduction to the problem. Arjuna uses the word bhikṣacharyam, which means a life, a mendicant life sustained by begging. So it's a holy, wondrous life. I want to do that. I don't want to do this. So Krishna immediately follows it up with the teachings of karma yoga. So first jnana yoga and then karma yoga. What is karma yoga? You have to realize God, that is the goal of your life. But what is in front of you now? The battle that is in front of you, that you have to do. Your karma has to be, which was karma earlier, has to be spiritualized now. The actions of our daily life still have to be performed, no matter even if you are a spiritual seeker. They still have to be performed, but now it's performed with a new spirit. So even if you become a monk, just by the way, if you become a monk, you don't get scot-free from all action. First of all, you can't. Even if you are a solitary ascetic in the mountains, you still have to take care of your own body and you have to fill your belly. So you have to at least go out for begging and taking a bath in the freezing cold Ganga. And it doesn't end there. Work comes your way. I just sort of smiling when I heard, there was a commotion when I was there in the Himalayas. A sudden commotion. Why? Among the monks who lived in huts and caves. The commotion was, there were government officials with laptops coming and asking for papers. Swami, do you have papers for this hut? Luckily, I was passing through. They asked me to. So I was not staying there. I said, no, I don't stay here. My ashram is near Calcutta, in Belur Math. So they said, okay, that's it. But the other monks who stayed there, and just imagine, you stay in a cave. How do you have papers for the cave? So, but it's the bureaucracy. They don't make allowances. They have to know that they're standardizing everything. And it's good. Everything is being bought under this. But no government ever planned for monks living in caves. So see how the world reaches out to you, even if you are sitting in meditation in a cave in the Himalayas. A monk just wanders in and sees a cave is free. Who knows who stayed there earlier? It could be another monk, it could be a bear or something. There are actually some of the caves you have to be careful. There are monks in some and there are bears in the others. So you have to be careful which one you visit. So how do you get papers for a cave? So nobody escapes work. And if you join an ashram, as I did, the first thing that is done is there's lots of work in the ashram. And as the novices, we had to do most of the work. So they used to keep us busy. I remember whenever we grumbled, and we did grumble that, oh, there's so much work, I hardly get time for meditation. It's done on purpose. We think we will become a monk and then we will meditate and then become enlightened in a week, 2 weeks. I'll give it 6 months. That's never going to happen. That's just immaturity. So it's a blessing that the senior monks fill our days with good activity, service activity, schools, colleges, hospitals. So when we would grumble to senior Swami, we don't have time for meditation, or we are tired in the time of meditation. There isn't enough time for this or energy. And the answer would be, oh good, that's all. It's all on track. That's what it is supposed to be. So whether you are at home, in the office, or even in the ashram, the world will make you work. How do you do that work? How do you spiritualize work? That was the topic of the 3rd chapter. Here also, how do you spiritualize work? A deeper secret will be revealed. From an Advaitic perspective, how do you spiritualize work? What was told in the 3rd chapter? 3rd chapter, that you do your work unselfishly, without worldly goals, as a worship of God. You are worshipping the Lord through your work. That's how you do it. Here a deeper secret is going to be revealed. What will be done in the next few verses will be to show the secret of Advaita Vedanta and its application to work. By an investigation into the nature of work, how Advaita Vedanta is manifested in work, that will be shown in several verses ahead. But today he indicates that. He says, Kartaramapi, although I am the doer of all work in this universe. I means as the incarnation. As the incarnation, what do? He has already declared. I am here to re-establish religion. I am here to punish the wicked or uplift the wicked. I am here for the salvation of the good, the virtuous. So that's a lot of work. So God has a lot of, incarnations have a lot of to do in their list. So I have so much work. And if you think of me in my original form as God, I am the incarnation of God. God has all the work in the universe, including the universe itself, to create the universe, to maintain the universe, and to finally dissolve the universe. Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, the creator, preserver, and dissolver of the universe. So that's a lot of work. And Kartaramapi, though I am the doer of all of that, know me not to be a doer, not to be an agent. Vidhi akartaram. I do not, honestly I can say, I do not do anything. This is all, of course, it is pointing towards our real nature as existence, consciousness, bliss. So it's like on a movie screen, there might be an action movie full of action, but the screen can, if it could, it can claim honestly, no action. I did not do anything. I did not go on a car chase. I did not swim, fight the villains, or shoot dinosaurs or whatever it is. Nothing. I did not do anything, though you saw it all. All those details will be shown later. How do you, from an Advaitic perspective, how do you make work into no work? Action into non-binding, into no work. Akartaram. Abhyayam. I am unaffected. Abhyayam literally means unchanged, but I am unchanged by all the action that I do. Krishna, he is he's driving the chariot of Arjuna in the middle of a conflict. And of course, as an avatara, he does so many things. Yet I am unaffected. The results of karma will not bind me, and day to day, I am serene in the midst of all these activities. See what happens, we are not so much worried about what will happen in the future, what is the result of my karma, that's one worry. But right now, day to day, karma is troublesome. It's exhausting to work day in and day out. The reactions which come from work, the frustrations which come, the unhappiness which comes, the dealing with difficult people in our lives, with so many people in the world, which work brings us in contact with, at home, at work, all this affects us. It disturbs us, makes us unhappy, unfulfilled. Abhyayam, I am not affected by it. He says, I am not affected by it. So this is an indication of how work should be done from an Advaitic perspective, and that we will see in the future. But now, the actual topic which of this evening. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. I have made the caste system of the 4 castes based on action and occupation, on nature and occupation, on qualities and occupation. All right, a quick introduction to the Varnasrama system of ancient Indian society. Varna means caste, and ashrama means our position in life, a station in life. So, the whole system was designed to make a harmonious society and enable us to fulfill our goals. 2 things, your personal fulfillment and a good society, a harmonious society. So, when you look at the ashrama, the 4 ashramas, it's basically 4 ashramas and 4 castes. That's it. A matrix of 4 ashramas and 4 castes. 4 ashramas: brahmacharya, studentship; grihastha or garhastha, householder; vanaprastha, the retired one, literally forest goer; and sannyasa, the monk, monastic life, the renunciant. 4 stages of life. And 4 castes: the brahmana, the brahmin, the priestly class, or this is not a good translation, but anyway. Kshatriya, the warrior or administrative ruling classes; the caste of the Vaishya, the tradesman, the businessman and all; and Shudra, the common laborer. So these are the 4 castes and the 4 stations. In every caste, there are these 4 stations of life which everybody goes through. First, a quick note on the 4 stations of life, the ashrama. So first one goes to the house of a teacher and learns about life, both worldly life and a secular education, but very importantly, a religious education, education in morals, ethics and spirituality. So a study of the Vedas. There was a mass of things to be learned. So the child would learn all this and would be expected to lead a pure, austere and celibate life. So no frats or sororities or things like that. So you lead this kind of a disciplined life and you're ready to take on responsibilities of life. At that point, most people would go into householder life. A few would be given the option if they wanted to become a monk directly from brahmacharya. So that was allowed. In Upanishads, it is said one can become a sannyasi either from the brahmacharya ashram, from the studentship, that one must go through some kind of education first, and then you become a monk, or from the grihastha ashram, or from the forest goer, the retired one. So from any of the 3 previous states of life, one can become a monk, a renunciant. Brahmacharyatva, grihatva, vanatva. So either from the studentship or from householder life, or from the forest dwelling, the retired life. What was the condition? When do you become a monk? Yadareva virajet tadareva prabrajet. The day you get utter vairagya, dispassion for the world, intense desire to realize God, that day you are free to become a monk, wherever you are. That was the idea. But most people would not. Most people would go into householder life. So there you get married and you start a family, you have an occupation, and you have duties towards your family, towards society. So there are many roles, and these roles are most dominant in grihastha life. Roles means which you are expected to fulfill If you're a father or a mother, you have to fulfill these roles. A husband or a wife, there are certain duties associated with those roles. A child, a son or a daughter, certain duties associated with those roles. If you accept the role, if a householder or a monk, certain duties associated with those roles. If I accept this role, then I have to do it. There's no way I can say that, yes, I'm a parent, but I won't take care of my children. It goes together, accepting the role and the duties that go with it. So the grihastha ashram, the householder life, is the basis of society, because all the others depend on the grihastha ashram. It is the householder who is productive, economically productive, who sustains all of society, defends it, for example, and progress. So the students, they depend on the householder for their sustenance. The schools and the ashrams, they depend on the householder. The retired persons, they depend on the householders for their sustenance. And of course, the monks also depend. All the other three stations in life, they depend on the householder. The householder is very, very important. Then, when the children are grown up, and then the householder is free to withdraw from society and devote oneself exclusively to a spiritual life, to a higher spiritual life. During the householder life also, there are these rituals, religious, throughout the 4 stages of life, religious rituals are there, something to be done daily. Some religious begins with some kind of religious ritual and ends with that. But the predominant thing might be worldly success, worldly duties in the householder life. As one goes beyond that, one begins to withdraw and concentrate on an exclusively spiritual life in vanaprastha. And then one day, when one is ready, one might go out entirely out of society as a monk, or stay even in the house, but become very monk-like, completely isolated from others and exclusively dedicated to a spiritual goal. So that's the progress of life, and it's a very natural and beautiful progress. It makes us mature and ready for spirituality. At no point does the Hindu way of life forget that the whole purpose of life is God realization. Ultimate purpose of life is God realization. 4 goals of life: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But moksha is parama purushartha. Moksha is the highest goal. Not for a few monks, for everybody. So even if you don't feel like, large numbers of people are not interested in moksha, God realization, fine. But the Hindu way of life would say, keep it in the background. Keep it as a possibility. Keep it as an option which we will take up later maybe. But that is always an option. Such a wise thing. Very, very wise thing. I was listening to a talk by Swami Ashokanandaji in the 1950s in California, in San Francisco, at the height of the Cold War. So he's saying that, look, both of these economic systems of the West, communism and capitalism, you know what the problem is with either of them, even if they're successful, after some time they offer nothing more to the individual. You have fulfilled your role as a capitalist or as a communist and have built a good capitalist or communist society. And then what? And it is even more so today, you see, this hyper-consumerist culture. You'll be happy if you buy the next iPhone 12, now it has come. So it is promised by this culture. You'll be happy if you have money, if you have body-centric culture, the perfect body, the perfect vacation, gadgets, all kinds of pleasures, you'll be happy. If you're not happy, little more, better car, better gadget, better vacation, better house. What else is there? Nothing else. That's it. Will it make you happy? It won't. So the stages of life understood this inner psychology, human psychology, that one must evolve from the immaturity of teenage years through the pressures and the responsibilities of a householder life. See, even in householder life, even at most the selfish, irresponsible teenager at least has to now expand and take care of family and especially children. It stretches you, even the most selfish person. And of course, in most cases, you expand much more beyond that into the community. Now this whole thing depends upon you, not just this one family, but the entire community depends on you, nation depends on you. And then you push further. So, householder life, after artha and kama, after pleasure and children and success in life, those things you have got to some extent. It was understood that one person would want something higher in life. So dharma, a welfare of others, expansion, further expansion, or even better, a spiritual life. If you have that kind of progress, which all of us we have, that's why we are here, spiritual life has to be taken up. At some stage, one must come to the maturity. This world cannot give us lasting happiness or fulfillment. One must look to something transcendent. I have seen it actually in the lives of people have come to me, people of my age. We married and have children and have jobs, and we now begin to realize that this is what my life is going to be now on. At least I have to take care of the kids until they are in the early 20s or something, or even beyond maybe. And this is the job. I have to hold on to the job to provide for myself and for the kids. What else do I do in life? I mean, it's already, I am locked into a particular path. And then, so is this my life? And very soon, 20 years later, I'll be old and I'll retire. And is that all of life? Then this what is promised by present society, a better iPhone, a better vacation, a better car, a better lifestyle. And people keep telling me that, Swami, you have no idea of how crass it is out there. Because you are always immersed in reading Upanishads or Gita or something. People have no exposure to these higher things in life. And the only thing that they are constantly bombarded by society, by TV. Somebody made a very important insight, that phrases keeping up with the Joneses, like keeping up with your neighbors. So the people you lived with, maybe the rich person in the neighborhood had something more than you aspired to that. It is a naturally human instinct. It's still a very materialistic aspiration. But now your neighbors are not, some young boy in a documentary was saying, I know the names of the Kardashians and I don't know the names of my neighbors. So your neighbors are not your people who live around you. They are the models, the lifestyle that is being projected on TV. Those people are now your neighbors, and that's what you are aiming towards. That's a crazy aspiration, and most of what is being shown there is also an illusion. It's an illusion. So it just brings unhappiness. One must move beyond artha and kama, pleasure and success in material terms, into dharma. If it is not even spirituality, some people say, I'm not attracted to spirituality, but I would want to do things for others. Didn't Vivekananda say that he who loves human beings truly loves God? All right, move into that. When people ask me, we feel a kind of hopelessness in life. What do we do? Is that all that there is to life? Then I tell them, if they are not interested in spirituality, I'll tell them, move beyond your little circle. Me and mine, I and my little family, move beyond that. There are big causes where you can help so many people. Dharma is a wider thing. Helping other people, helping society, aligning yourself with something larger than this body. So that is dharma. And beyond that, of course, moksha. Anyway, my point here was this development from brahmacharya to grihastha to vanaprastha to sannyasa is a very natural and very necessary progression of maturity, of human maturity. One must go through this. And what if one does not? Unhappiness, lack of fulfillment. One won't know. Everything is going well, but I'm not happy. Why not? You don't have that higher thing which you need. If you are kept with what do you call it? A popsicle. Kids love it. So popsicle, very nice. But if you're kept with that popsicle when you're a teenager and you're an adult, you will get sick of it. The same thing. One must become more and more mature. Now, this is the 4 stages of life. The four castes, which is what Krishna is talking about here. So how do you understand these 4 castes, which are, you can see it in Indian society. one way of understanding, Krishna says, is guna, by nature. By nature it means the whole psychology here is based on Sankhya, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattvic person, I'm not explaining Sattva, Rajas, Tamas now. Basically, Sattva is serenity, inwardness, calmness, intellectuality, refinement. This is Sattva. Rajas is dynamism, energy, ambition, passion. Tamas is inertia, slowness, dullness. Now, one kind of nature is the Brahminical nature. The Brahminical nature is would be generally introverted, intellectual, given to pleasure, but a kind of refined pleasure. So that person might like good literature, classical music. Remember, it's not the Brahmin who is a Brahmin by birth. It's the nature of the person. It could be a person who is a Brahmin, it could be a person who belongs to a Shudra caste, it could be a person who has nothing to do with India or Indian society. You will find them in all societies, at all times in human history. Introverted, intellectual, thoughtful, sensitive, quiet, generally a very decent kind of person morally. So this is a sort of a disciplined, simple, the whole idea of a simple life and high thinking. So this is a Brahminical mindset. It's a Brahminical psychology, personality. Let's call it a personality. So that's a Brahmin. That's a Brahmin by quality, a sattvic nature. All the other qualities are also there, but Sattva Guna predominates generally, followed by Rajaguna and followed by Tamaguna. So Sattva Guna mainly, and Rajas and Tamas are there in small quantities. That's the general structure of the personality. Now the other kind of personality is that may be very intelligent, but also very dynamic, energetic, a doer, a mover and shaker, wants to do things in the world. So predominant of Rajas. So a very active, doing kind of person, achieving kind of person. That person would be, what's the point of just sitting quietly and reading a book in a library? Go out there, do something. Why just read history? Make history. So I remember Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he wrote this book, The Discovery of India. I think he wrote it as like lessons in Indian history for his daughter Indira, who would later become the Prime Minister. And one of the touching things he writes, at that time Indira was a school kid, I think. One of the things he writes is that I'm writing this for you. Remember, it's good to read history, but it's better to make history. And it's so touching to see that he's writing it to this young girl who later becomes the Prime Minister of India. So she also made history afterwards. Anyway, that's irrelevant. So a doer and a shaker. So Rajoguna, Rajas predominates, and there is Sattva and Tamas. Less Sattva and even less Tamas. So that kind of mentality, that kind of personality is called a Kshatriya personality. Kshatriya. These are good soldiers and administrators and corporate leaders, things like that. Leaders, basically. Then the third category is the Vaishya personality, where the Rajoguna is there, predominant, just like the Kshatriya, but instead of the Sattva, the Tamas part is more than the Sattva. So Rajasic, Tamasic and Sattvic. So here, for the difference is for the Kshatriya personality, the doing and the achieving is important. That's the point of it. You're like an Alexander the Great. You would rather die than be a head of a small Greek principality. You want to rule the world. And all the trouble that you undertake is nothing to you. You just want to do that. But the Vaishya personality is dynamic, active. But the point is not to achieve something. Point is to gather and accumulate and be rich. Especially in material terms. More and more and more. Not so much the achievement part of it. A Kshatriya, for example, would be happy to be ruined if he can win a war or be the leader or something. But the Vaishya would not be happy to be ruined. I'd rather be rich rather than be successful, in other terms. So the Vaishya personality is the accumulative kind. The Kshatriya is the doing kind. Again, it's nothing to do with being a businessman in India or being a part of the business class. It is found all over the world, everywhere. And finally, the Shudra personality is where Tamas predominates and Sattva and Rajas are less. So that kind of person is prone to action, but it's of a mechanical kind, or prone to becoming indolent or lazy. And the kind of action a tamasic person would be comfortable with would be something that is not too demanding. The tensions and pressures of the Wall Street trying to accumulate money, no, I don't want that. Or the dangers of being a conqueror or a soldier or a policeman, no, absolutely not. And the pressures of writing papers and assignments in a university, no, I don't want any of that. I want a simple, quiet, earn my little bit of money and watch TV, and that's it. That's a Shudra kind of personality, a mechanical, unskilled laborer, that kind of personality. So these are the four kinds of personalities of the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra, and they are to be found irrespective of society, of civilization, everywhere, here in this society. And also remember, in every institution. So it does not mean that the Kshatriyas are only in the police and the army and the Brahmins are only in the university. Not at all. Every institution will have these types also. A university has professors, they are the Brahmins there, and grad students. But it also has administrators. It also has campus security. It also has the campus, the janitors and the cleaning staff and all of that. A corporate, say a big corporation, multinational corporation, they have the CEO who might be more of a Kshatriya, a doer, an achiever. But they also have the IT people and the systems people who are more like Brahmins, or the HR people who are like Brahmins. There are also, of course, the Vaishya type and the Shudra type. So all types are found in society and in organizations, in ashrams. So there might be a Swami who's a spiritual teacher, that's a Brahmin. So what I'm doing is a Brahminical function. But there might be a Swami who is the head of a huge ashram, is more like a chief executive officer, or like the Pope or something like that. That's more of a Kshatriya function. There might be a Swami who's very good at collecting money, and and there's a Swami maybe who's just a very hard-working, simple soul, who are like the backbone of any ashram. So all these classes are there in society, regardless of which time you are in. It doesn't have to be ancient India. The second way of looking at this caste system is what Krishna says, karma, occupation. Here karma means occupation. So this is simple. Anybody, doesn't matter which family comes from, which country comes from, anybody who is a teacher, who is a priest, who is dedicated to knowledge functions is a Brahmin. Anybody who is engaged in military activities, police activities, administrative activities, no matter, see, now it may not be suited for it, right? So may not be suited. Maybe I have seen people in India who are IAS officers, like the top, they're like federal bureaucrats. I remember one person who was very unhappy, was telling me, I had this chance to be a professor in a university, and my parents pushed me into this IAS job, which is very glamorous for Indian parents in those days, not now anymore. So, but I always wished that I had studied physics and become a professor. So that person is by quality, inner personality is Brahminical, but by job he is a Kshatriya, he is a police officer. He was a senior police officer in Bihar. So, now, this is actually what you are doing. Actually what you are doing doesn't, now we are not taking into account your personality. It's just what you are doing. That's your caste. It might change also, who knows, in a life. Though a personality does not easily change, but your job might change actually. Then the third way of understanding caste is what is normally understood as caste in India, in Indian society, which is by birth, jati. So which is not at all what Krishna is speaking about. Jati here means, literally jati means birth, but that's the word used in India for caste. They will ask, what's your caste? And there are some states in which casteism is very prevalent. They'll outright ask you, what's your caste? Now that jati caste system is what is the source of all the problem. It's almost like a prison cell. You're locked into a particular section of society just because you're born into a particular family and community. Indians who are in this group, they know. You can more or less, not always, more or less find out what is the caste of a person just by looking at the surname, the title of a person. So Indians know, oh, okay, he is or she is from the south of India and is probably a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or some, And there are numerous castes and subcastes. I mean, the four castes are divided into numerous subcastes. It's a sort of locked society. It froze the mobility in society for centuries and centuries. No intermarriage, no intermingling, little communities. Somebody put it very nicely. It's like a mosaic floor. It seems to be very diverse, but the mosaic floor is actually not diverse. The black and white and red tiles they're all neatly divided from each other. The black tile is only a black tile. The red tile is only a red tile. The blue tile is only a blue tile, and clearly demarcated from other tiles. So Indian society became fragmented like that over centuries. Then came the monster of privilege. So certain people, by their position, Brahmins or Kshatriyas who had privileged positions, they grabbed power, and this started a cycle of exploitation of the masses. So there are many evil effects of this jati caste system. If you look at the caste system, Krishna is talking about by quality and by your occupation. But as human beings, you are all equal. And of course, in the ultimate Vedantic sense, you are one reality. You are all divinity. So this is the difference. The problem which people are furious about, and people, I've seen it, especially social justice activists in India, they are mad at Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita and saying that, he is saying that he is at the source of the caste system. But Krishna never said the family-based, the birth-based caste system. Doesn't matter what your personality is, what your tendency is. Doesn't matter what your community occupation is. See, the personal tendency and your community occupation, this was the structure of, I would say, caste in every society, in every civilization down to today. Today especially, it is mostly, luckily, it is mostly our personality. What we are suited to do, in especially advanced countries like the United States and other advanced countries, rich economies of the West, you are always encouraged. Find out what you like to do, what you are good at doing, what would you want to do in life. And that's the dream of every person, to do what they want to do. Which means they will follow their personality, their inner tendencies, characteristics, guna jati. Until recently, people mostly followed the occupations of their forefathers. So that was a karmajā, occupation. That's how guilds came up, communities of tradesmen. But this monstrous thing where people are locked in, no matter what your inner desires are, inner capabilities are, no matter what your occupation is, it's all determined by whom you are born to, with your family. It's disastrous. And this weakened and disturbed, sort of perverted Indian society for centuries. Of course, it is all that jati caste by birth is now not recognized by the state. It's illegal to discriminate on caste by birth. And say it's illegal to discriminate on caste by anything. Not at all. For example, every education system discriminates on caste based on quality. What are examinations? What are SAT scores? What are aptitude tests? They are all tests of caste by quality, by your inner tendencies. Anyway, I think we have all got the idea basically what this is all about. I have been faced with activists, Indian activists in, I remember one conference in California where this lady stood up, she's a scholar from India, and said, the Gita should be banned, it should be banned because it promotes caste system. Not in that sense, it does not promote caste system. And in the sense in which Krishna is talking about caste, that's natural. I mean, it's just human nature or social structure. I mean, in the sense of occupation, economic occupational structure. That's there and that's almost guaranteed to be there in every kind of society, from the most primitive tribal societies to the most sophisticated postmodern societies we have got today. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Jayant? Notice it doesn't have much to do with the whole of Krishna's teaching or Vedanta. It's more to do with the current context, especially in India. Caste in India, by the way, those who do not know, those who are in the West, it's something like racism in the West. So anything which you might say which sounds even faintly supporting caste is politically and socially very controversial in India. Okay.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
I have a question about the 12th verse where Sri Krishna teaches that humans do perform actions in this material world for success in the material world.
Yes.
And I want to acknowledge that I'm sure that the teaching is true, and the question that I have is because of my own ignorance. The background is that I was brought up in a Brahmin family by very devout and religious parents. And although later in life I noticed that when a serious health issue struck our family, then the religious practices of my parents didn't really solve our problems even in the material world. So I feel fraught by this doubt that that my own enlightenment depends on me, depends on the grace of the same Savana Brahman. That if by the grace of the same Brahman, I may or may not get enlightenment. So my question is for some, yeah.
I think yes, complete the thought.
So my question is that for someone whose bhakti sense is not very well developed at this point, is it just a matter of continuing the practice and hoping that it will grow, or is there a different way for me to offer my work to God and practice karma yoga in the way in which Krishna taught in the 3rd chapter?
All right. First of all, one question you didn't maybe ask it. I thought that was where you were heading. It's an interesting insight which I had not thought about. See, what he indicated was, so you have devotion to God, and here God says your worldly problems will be solved when you ask for, like you ask for God's help to rescue us from illness, for example, health problems, and so by God's grace, it will be solved. But immediately one can object. It's not always solved. People do die even after praying a lot. Even if you're praying for your dear and near ones or friends, they still die, and there are people dying all the time, even here in the most advanced societies of the world. Perhaps more than here in New York in April, May, and all. Thousands and thousands of people. So, and people pray for success, wealth, and maybe all students have had the feeling, the experience of praying for getting through examinations and getting good grades or passing examinations. Some do and some don't. So the point is, God, who says, I will help you in your worldly endeavors, protect you in the worldly sense, does sometimes and does not do so sometimes. That's one. Now, do I depend on such a God for enlightenment? Then it may be that by the grace of that God I will get enlightenment, or sometimes I will not get enlightenment. It seems a very risky affair there. No, it doesn't work that way. Remember, ultimately the whole purpose of this game of life is not success in this life, is not being rescued from illnesses. No, the whole purpose of it is enlightenment, God realization, moksha. If being free of diseases was the purpose of all spirituality, then spirituality is a big failure. There are so many religious people who get diseases. In fact, in a number of cases, and I'm not saying just one religion, I have seen it in the case of Christians, Jews, Muslims, or even very superstitious people of all religions. In the coronavirus time, being completely unconcerned with the basic precautions, not socially distancing, not sanitizing their hands, not wearing masks, God will protect me. God must be rolling his eyes. So, no, that is not the purpose, ultimate purpose of religion. The purpose of religion is enlightenment, and all the rest are designed in such a way which will finally take you to enlightenment. So, depending on our good karma or bad karma, sometimes our prayers will be answered, sometimes not answered. Remember, in each case, it's only helpful for us in spiritual life. One thing that is guaranteed is, and Sri Krishna will say that in 6th chapter, those who walk on this path of enlightenment, God realization, for them success is guaranteed. Maybe not in this life, but inevitably the one thing that you will take from life to life is this, your spiritual progress. That is never lost, and it will ultimately lead to success. Okay. The other thing you said was bhakti. Yes, in many cases it can be mechanical, but it's good to hold on to it. Meditation, devotion, service, and jnana, knowledge, These are the 4 broad yogas which Swami Vivekananda talked about, and Sanatana Dharma talks about these 4 yogas basically. And if you see the different philosophies like Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, they will accept all of it, will just rearrange the hierarchy of the different approaches. So in Advaita, Jnana is the highest, that is the only one that will take you to enlightenment. Bhakti and meditation and karma, they only support, and so on. In Dvaita Vedanta, Bhakti is the highest, others are in a supporting role. Poor karma is always in a supporting role in everywhere, never the hero, always the bit player. But very essential, very important. Otherwise, there will be no enlightenment. So you can do karma, you have to do karma, we all have to do karma, even if it is mechanical. I am doing this as the worship of the Lord. Or, there is another way, which Krishna will talk about in this chapter, from a jnani's way of looking at karma. He will talk about it. Brahmarpanam Brahmavi, he will talk about that later on. Yes.
Yeah, Swamiji, Bhagavan is saying kartaram api mam vidya kartaram.
Yes.
So he's saying like he's a doer and a non-doer at the same time.
Yes.
So,
not at the same time. Though I am the doer, actually if you know me in truth, what I am really, you will see I am a non-doer. And what Advaita is saying, that's true of you also. We naturally feel I am the doer of all these actions. But when we get this insight into who I am as the witness consciousness, I see I'm not doing anything. When the screen has forgotten itself and arranged and identified itself with the cop in the car chase, Hollywood car chase, and in a movie, think I am the doer of this action. I am a cop chasing a villain in a car. When it realizes, no, I am the screen, and on me a Hollywood cop movie is playing. So I am not chasing anybody anywhere. He realizes that. Although the same experience is still going on. When you wake up from a dream, you realize, I did not meet those people, I did not say those things, I did not go there, I did not have those good or unpleasant experiences, none of it. Though I experienced all of it. Why? It was a dream in one awareness, the dreamer's awareness. Similarly, in me, the awareness, all this is going on. This is what it is. So Krishna says, I am a karta, I am not the doer, because I know my real nature as Brahman, Satchidananda. You are also like that. That will become clearer. He will say that very extraordinary verse, the one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action, that one truly sees, and that one is the true yogi, and that one is truly the doer of all actions. It will come very soon. Then Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi, all action is Brahman, all that will come. How do you see Brahman, the ultimate reality, in action, in the midst of activity?
Yes, hi Swami.
Hello.
I have a particular problem. I've been trying to focus for the last year entirely on my spiritual path, or on my spiritual life. And I've been trying to let go of attachments. I've been successful. I've been disconnecting from the world. I deleted my Apple News. I'm disengaging more from friends. But the biggest struggle that I have is since I started studying with you, I noticed that even my out-of-body travels and other spiritual gifts that I have is just another form of attachments and experiences, so it's none of it is real. So I've been trying to let go of these, but I found that I stopped out-of-body travel, and I'm trying not to focus on my spiritual gift anymore. I'm trying to let it go. But by letting go, I feel I have a void that now I'm trying to fill through more worldly desires again. So I feel like I'm going around in circles. I'm trying to let go, but by letting go of these things, it has created a void that I'm trying to fill in another way. So how do I deal with this?
Fill all voids with the 4 yogas. Fill it with devotion to God, and read devotional texts, read the lives of saints, read the life of Sri Ramakrishna, life of Vivekananda, Holy Mother, lives of saints of all religions. That will create devotion spontaneously. You will have the feeling of devotion. Meditate morning and evening.
That I've been doing.
Yes, you are doing it. And stay with this idea. I am the Atman. I am the witness of out-of-body travel, of the worldly desires coming up in the mind. They are all at the level of the mind. So, when you do this, you will not be affected. It will be all right.
I've been reading and studying and reading books. I have piles of books on my nightstand, but there's only so much I can read and listen to your podcasts.
You don't have to overexert yourself. In fact, Upanishads say, Bahun Shastram Nanudhyayat. That means do not read too many scriptures. It says Anya Vacho Vimunchatha. Give up all irrelevant texts or irrelevant discussions. So, simplicity is better than complexity. Yes, but if it's all about spiritual life, because you are interested in philosophy and spiritual life, that's good. And at one point it becomes less and less. I like this story I read in the anecdote I read in the Reader's Digest of this gentleman who was a professor probably. He said that at one time I wanted to reduce my big library into short, like just the essence. So I had all the classics of Western literature, Western civilization. He was probably an Englishman. That was my library. Then I decided to reduce it even to just the basics, core spiritual books and important works of philosophy. That's it. And he says, now in my old age, all I need is my rocking chair and my Bible. That's it. It all comes down to that. Then Sri Ramakrishna, he talks about this monk who would come, a visiting wandering monk, who would sit, and as long as there was daylight, he had this little book. He would read the book very intently. He would be absorbed in it. So when Sri Ramakrishna was curious, what's there? And he saw on every page of the book was written Ram. That's all. That's just the name of God. And that's what he was reading, page after page after page. So that's how we become more and more and more focused, but focused on the highest. I remember...
Yeah, but I feel like since I've been trying to do that, since I've been trying to focus more on the highest by letting go out of my out-of-body experiences and my out-of-body travel, which I enjoyed, and another spiritual gift that I have. So I'm trying to let go, but I had to fill it with something else, and the books are not enough.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It'll be all right. Don't relax. Take your time with it. It'll be all right. Don't worry. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Pranav has said that in *Sapiens*, Yuval Harari makes the compelling case. Capitalism and communism also forms of religion, lower religion. Yes, in a sense, they do seem like religion, isn't it? People are like maybe more crazy about communism and capitalism than they are like they were about religion in past ages. But technically, the only problem is why can't you consider science to be a form of religion? Why can't you consider capitalism or communism to be a form of religion? No, actually, you cannot for a technical reason. One common aspect of all religions is transcendentalism, that there is something that transcends this material universe. So even Buddhism, which does not believe in a God or even an immortal soul, is still transcendental because nirvana, enlightenment, the freedom is a transcendental freedom which transcends this material universe. So all religions, theistic religions, non-theistic religions, the most spiritual, most philosophical, the most ritualistic, and the most devotional, all of them have one common feature: transcendental, beyond this universe. But science and capitalism and communism are very much this world. So that's why you cannot consider them to be religions. But the point is taken. Very good. Let us end it here. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. I pray to the Divine Mother. This is the time of the worship of Mother Durga. So those who are interested, you can see a very wonderful form of worship is done, very genuine, in Belur Math. So if you go to the Belur Math YouTube, the channel, you can see the daily worship which is done, especially the evening Arati. That's very uplifting. And this time it's also unique because of the coronavirus restrictions, the public is not allowed in. Generally it is very, very crowded. Tens of thousands of people all the time. This time it's only the monks. So you can see that, but luckily they put it on, you can see the video and and the live telecast of that on the YouTube channel. It's very interesting. I pray to the Divine Mother for her protection, her blessings, for this world and for enlightenment, both.